All right, let's talk outbuildings. A vintage barn is cool, but a wired, heated, well-drained pole barn or shop is something else.
What appraisers, buyers, and your future self truly value. I'm Amanda McKee.
And I'm Alex, and together we are AM Realty Minnesota, husband and wife team of real estate agents, and we cover Minnesota and Western Wisconsin. So let's jump into one of my favorite subjects, outbuildings. Love me a good pole barn. And so we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things you need to know when buying a property with a pole barn or looking for a property where you could add one. Um, so one of the main things we're going to look at is layout. This is critical because how you want to use it is going to be greatly affected by the layout of this pole barn. If you're just using it as a parking bay, do you want to have, a cement slab, or some of them have just gravel? It's going to be a little dusty. You probably want a cement slab for your vintage cars or what have you. Um, if you want a workshop, you got to have a good wide open layout for that. But maybe smaller is okay because it's less to heat, especially in our winters. A little less to heat is a good thing. So, a smaller shop might actually be more effective than not for what you're doing. But we're going to look at things like storage, door heights. If your trailer or RV is going to fit width-wise and height-wise. We just ran into this problem.
Yep.
Our property has a medium small pole barn on it, and we have a little ice house that we want to put in, but it's really tall. And unfortunately, our door only goes up to like 11 and a half feet,
Yeah.
and our ice house needs a 12 and a half or 13-foot door. So we're just kind of out of luck. It's not going inside,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
So,
So you want to ask yourself, what do you want to use these for? What is their purpose for you?
yeah, definitely.
So next thing we're going to talk about is drainage and slab. So you want to think about from a drainage standpoint, does the building have drain holes in it? Because in Minnesota, they need to be draining out to open daylight, like out into a hill or something like that.
And we're talking floor drains here specifically, right?
Yes, exactly. So it can't just drain into the ground.
Right.
And then, like Alex mentioned, sometimes the buildings are going to have like gravel or dirt bottoms, but whatever the bottom is, you want to make sure that the grading around the building is kind of sloped downward. So you're not going to get water seepage in when snow melts or when it rains hard. And then you want to think about, are the doors properly closing? Critters can get into tight spaces, and there's a lot of them in the country.
Yep.
Mice and raccoons and chickens and all sorts of different things. Even possums. We've had possums in our chicken coop. So
Yep, that's happened before. Yep.
But either way, you want to make sure that it's animal proof, or that you have a way to animal proof it. And then, can you use it year round? Again, going back to how you plan on using it. If it's just a storage facility for you, probably doesn't matter. But if it's a workshop that you want to be working in year round, then you want to think about what you need for that as well.
Right. So on that same note, let's talk about the utility checklist. What kind of utilities does your building have available to it? Ideal state is you have electricity out there, right? But is it a sub panel off of your main panel on your home, which is kind of a lot of draw for the house? And typically it's going to be very limited to the amount of power that you can get out in the pole barn directly from the house. If it's done right, you've got a really nice panel that comes right off of the power line coming into the home, so that way it has its own separate power source. That means you can get 1 or 200 amp service pretty easily.
Good for what? Welding?
Welding and having a nice big air compressor, maybe a lift if you're doing car work.
Yep.
So yeah, you want to have enough power to run all the things that you're looking to do in a pole barn, especially if you want to have electric heat. I don't recommend it. It's expensive, but it is easy and safe. So, that's another option, but you need to have enough power to run something like that. So you're going to be looking for like, what kind of sub panel do you have? What is your draw on your panel? How much service do you have? And then do they have outlets? I mean, has it been wired for lights and power? What's been done?
Sometimes they're just big empty shells.
Yep. My dad's is that way. It had nothing. No lights, no power, no nothing.
Yep.
So yeah, that was it's a chore to run all that power. It's a lot of money in copper these days to
Hmm.
wire up a whole pole barn. It adds up fast just adding a few outlets. So
Yeah.
things to keep in mind. But then also, does it have 220? You know, if you're going to be running a welder or an air compressor or a lift, you want to have 220 wiring there. So you either have to add that after the fact, or maybe you're lucky and it's already there. Somebody else did the hard work for you and put the time and effort into it. So ideal state is it's already got that 220. And then the last thing to think about is your heat source.
Mm.
So for example,
Brr.
yeah, right.
It's cold like more than 50% of the year.
I know. So I mean, if you
You're,
plan on doing anything out there in the winter months and you want heat, you got to think about how you're heating it.
yeah.
Wood is a great cheap way to do it, right? Except it's a
You,
lot of work. Wood heats you twice. First cutting it and hauling it, and then using it.
but
Um,
also you need to think about insurance too.
right. The insurance factor is a point to be made.
Yeah.
Most insurance companies do not want to insure wood stoves, especially in an outbuilding.
Yeah.
So that might be a consideration. You could have a liquid propane or natural gas furnace. Those are great options. Very efficient and effective, and typically pretty safe. And then there's electric, very safe, easy to run,
Super
but
expensive.
super expensive. Yeah, when you're out in the country, your electricity it's gonna go up a bit. So all things to think about. And then,
Yeah.
is it insulated?
Yeah.
I mean, before you think about heating it,
To
like
keep the
let's
heat
insulate
in.
it, right? Like let's insulate it before we heat it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so those are some things to really think about with the utilities and
Hmm.
what you're gonna use it for.
Yeah. Okay. So going back to what are you using it for? The other thing to think about is the zoning in your area. Um, And what I mean by that is, do you want animals? Are the buildings, I mean, we've talked a lot about pole barns, but there's so many outbuildings. You can have chicken coops and barns and machine sheds.
Loafing
And
sheds.
yes, there's so many
Yep.
different kinds of outbuildings out there. And a lot of them are great for housing animals.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to think about what are the zoning restrictions and allowances in your area. You can find that out by calling your local city and county for that property.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And sometimes the township as well.
Yeah. But if you're thinking, hey, I want to have some goats or some chickens or, whatever you're thinking, you want to make sure those are allowed, even if you have a building there that seems like it might be appropriate for it, there might still be restrictions,
Mm-hmm.
or they might have restrictions on quantity that you can
Right.
have too. So, in Chisago County, I think it's four birds per acre.
Yep.
So, just to think about that, and then also thinking about depending on what outbuildings you might already have and what ones you might want to add in the future.
Right.
Thinking about zoning from that perspective too, of how many buildings can you have on your property? Is there a limitation for that?
Mm-hmm.
And what are the requirements too for spacing and everything?
Right, and a lot of people are under this misconception that having a whole bunch of acreage is like just a blank slate and you do what you want
Yeah.
with it, and it's just really
Mm-hmm.
not the case. I mean,
Yeah.
what about the property we ran into recently, a little north of us here? I won't list the town because it's an actively for sale property, but there's 40 acres available on this land that is for
Mm-hmm.
sale, and pretty much all of it is within city limits
Yeah.
for the town that it's in, which means it's 40 acres that you cannot hunt,
Super restricted.
you cannot build much on, you cannot have animals really. You can have like 4 chickens, 40 acres, and you can have about 4 to 6 chickens. Seems kind of silly, right? But
Yeah.
that's the rules. So, I mean, somebody could run into a situation where my clients wanted to have goats and they were told no. If we didn't look
Yeah.
into that, they would have bought this 40 acres thinking, sweet, we've got our own little homestead, we're going to be good to go. And they would have been very disappointed when the county was knocking on their door telling them to get rid of the goats.
Yeah. Hey guys, hold tight through the end of the video because we do have a bonus for you too.
Right. Yep. So what's our next topic?
Yeah. So let's talk about like pricing. What does that mean for us?
Right. So like one of the things that we're going to look at when it comes to pricing is what's the cost of adding buildings new versus what's already there. Sometimes you can get a deal on the right property with great acreage, but there's no building. And you have to kind of weigh out, well, is it worth it to find something else that's maybe not perfect in other ways?
How important is it to you?
Right, but to have the building you want. And it's expensive to add a pole building new today. I mean, it's much more cost effective typically to buy a property that already has one available on it, compared
and just
to
making upgrades to it.
right, compared to building new. building new is going to be pretty expensive. So
Yeah.
definitely something we want to look for.
Yes. So anyway, the bonus that I talked about, you can click below and get your free outbuilding checklist. So you know what to inspect, what to look for when you're looking to buy a property with outbuildings on it.
Right.
So thanks for watching our video. Watch our other videos again.
Yep. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.